Welcome to the Teens Talk podcast, created by the Student Virtual Board of You Celebrate Diversity. You Celebrate Diversity supports students and teachers organizing locally, educating themselves and their peers, and taking action for inclusion and social justice. For more information, visit ycdiversity.org. Welcome back to Season 2, which is all about community building. Today, I'm joined with Rediet Moges to discuss opposition and activism. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Teens Talk. I'm your co-facilitator, Lameese Makkawi. I'm a virtual intern for You Celebrate Diversity, and I am going to get this episode started. So everyone needs community, and it can look different all over the world. The important thing is building a community with the right intention, as well as understanding the possible obstacles that you could face. And a lot of the things that we want to talk about in these episodes are going to be different specific topics and themes. So for today's theme and topic, it's going to be how to deal with opposition. And that could be from starting a club, demanding a certain kind of change when you're maybe your school, your job, whatever the case. Because we both are still students, this is going to be the perspective of student activists. But join with me is Rediet Moges. Okay, yeah. Cool. I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself.
Hi, yeah, my name is Rediet Moges. I'm originally from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. I currently live in Aurora, Colorado, and I attend CU Denver.
Thank you so much. So, Rediet honestly has a lot of really inspiring stories, and I really like her perspective, which is why I wanted to reach out to her to talk about this topic in this episode. As you guys know, in each episode, we call for a little bit prior just to talk about some ideas and topics we might want to go through. So if I ever reference anything, it's just to that. But for the rest of the call, it's definitely still organic and just kind of whatever we end up talking about. So, I know that you have had a great deal of different experiences creating clubs and being part of like actually being an activist and changing things as a student. So why don't you just tell me a little bit about that and just some of the things that you've done before we even get into all the obstacles and opposition?
Yeah, definitely. So, I went to William Smith High School, and it was a very small school, and the student body was very brown and black, but the teachers were, I think, 90% at least were white. And there was like one or two teachers of color. And because of that, I faced a lot of obstacles. And I basically, what I was dealing with in my school, and a lot of students, just like me, I mean, every student there, was that we kind of knew that like the teachers, most of the teachers didn't really care about us. And they would just give us, like, for I remember one year, my junior year English class, the teacher only assigned us one book to read, and that was the entire year, and we did nothing else. Like, we just played games, and he even told us like the only reason he even made us read that book was because his teacher assistant was like, "Hey, we need to get them to read a book or something." So things like that were just like so rampant, and it really broke my heart. So what I like began with was Aurora's Achievers. I designed a kind of like a club thing that would like run during school, where we help each other go to college and get extracurriculars and all these things that like you really need to succeed, that the school counselors weren't giving us. And yeah, that's where we started.
Well, that's amazing. I went to personally at a really diverse school, but it was a pretty white staff. So honestly, it can get really, really annoying trying to deal with them.
Yeah.
But okay, no, thank you for that. I actually wanted, I remember, did you also ever mention doing work with YASPA?
Yes, I did. So I got to my junior year, I really like explored a lot of activism, and I did nothing like, I mean, like, I was doing activism, but like I was just more towards myself. I didn't do any leadership my junior year, and all I did was just learn. And the places that I learned were Youth Celebrate Diversity, of course. So thankful for Youth Celebrate Diversity. And yes, but Young Aspiring Americans for Social Political Activism. Those two organizations really made me into who I am. Like, they introduced me to array of activist topics that I had no clue on. Like, I knew something was wrong and I wanted to make a difference, but I didn't know what it was. And these organizations really gave me the vocabulary to understand what was taking place.
No, that's actually really important. I think literacy and I guess you could just say activist terminology if you want, I don't know, like is important
Yeah,
because that's kind of like the issues you run in with trying to be PC and trying to like be inclusive and using inclusive language. And so when
hmm,
you want to actually like, be a leader in your community, it's important to learn all those things. And a lot of people don't think about that. But yeah, thank you for bringing
exactly.
that up.
And like if you don't learn, then and this is like my issue. I had a little bit of a pride issue. And I tried to like and I really wanted to make a change. Like I was very like anxious to do something. So everything I did kind of like didn't work out at first because I didn't know what I was even targeting. I didn't even understand racism and white supremacy and the school to prison pipeline, all these huge things that have been studied in academia for so long by people of color. I had no clue about, but through YASPA and YCD, I like finally grasped it's like, oh, okay, now I know what I'm doing. And now using the knowledge that you've given me, I can branch out and be a leader.
No, I love that. Thank you for being honest about that because I totally used to be the same way. Like I knew that I was very passionate, but I was also very ignorant, uneducated yet. So I was just like, this is wrong, but I don't know why. It just doesn't feel right. So
Yeah.
no, that's something I recommend for anyone trying to build a community. Definitely just doing the learning, the work, and trying to
Mhm.
actually learn how to be way more inclusive. And at least for the whatever goal you're trying to reach, like learn about like for me, I always say, try to find a mission goal first, and that
Mhm.
way you can actually figure out what the point of this, club is.
Mm,
But
yeah.
I remember you talking about you working with your principal about some change
Mhm.
in your school. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, so we first got started with I didn't really think that I was strong enough to handle the racism in the faculty. So I wanted to, with Aurora's Achievers, try to solve the problems they've created on my own. And that's kind of like a flawed like mindset because like I should be able to like address these really heavy things. And I mean, I don't blame myself, but it's like like the stuff needed to be addressed. Like I couldn't, as a student, fix everything. So at first, I was trying to fix everything, and I went to my principal, my vice principal, and our dean, and I set up a meeting with them. And I did this with three of my friends. Their names are David, Jasmine, and Malia. Sorry, and like I just want to mention them because they're incredible, and I just didn't do it by myself. I had my community with me, and with them, we went to the principal and we told her the issues that we saw. We had like a little sideshow. We were prepared. And we like presented like the problems that we've seen. And then we let her know that like we're not saying we're gonna solve this because there's a lot of issues at the school that aren't even our fault and we can't even address. But here's like a solution that we found it and what our solution was Aurora's Achievers. And in Aurora's Achievers, I wanted to prioritize equity. So I demanded that the school give us a time slot in the school day to do this work because we shouldn't have to fix their issues on our own time. Like we're already hurt by them. So our oppressors don't get to benefit off of free labor. So I demanded time and then I demanded pay too. For leaders, I don't really remember the exact number, but at least for the four of us, I demanded the same amount of pay each semester. And they said for the pay, we have to think about it just because of our budget. But everything else we agree and we are eager to see the change that you're making. So yeah, we got started with that.
No, that's amazing. Honestly, like I feel like we're all way too intimidated to even ask for pay as students,
Mhm.
because it's like you just don't think it's like the audacity of you to ask for money, But honestly, like that's something that I think everyone should really, that's something that's really frustrated me, over time, over my high school career of doing a lot of different kinds of equity work, whether it was on a school level or district level, is that it wasn't always the case, but there were a lot of times where I could sense and I also knew when it was just like people using Overland Kids as, the
Mm,
poster kids for diversity since we're such a diverse school. We have no funding. We have very limited resources. I know we have the STEM building. People love to say that, which is great, but it's not all you need to make a school,
right,
more
right.
accessible for everyone's, interests and needs. But Overland does the best that they can. That being said, though, when people ask for our voices and then don't actually use them or listen to them, it's like a slap in the face because I feel like
Right.
I personally am not doing this for my resume. I'm not saying that you shouldn't or you shouldn't try to do things, to build your career, but I personally did all of
Mhm.
this straight out of passion.
Mhm.
I was either asked to do it or I try to find it myself, but I don't
Yeah.
like the just the fakeness of it all, it really does frustrate me.
Right.
So, but no,
That's yeah.
no, I'm glad you were able to find because you said you made it into class time, right? And that
Mhm.
and now this pay, was it like you don't have to tell me exactly like how much, but was it something that was like out of reach? Like was it something that you don't is unheard of or what was it like?
No, it was pretty reasonable. That's what I'm trying to think. I think it was like 250 per semester. So like
Okay.
it's not like thousands of
Yeah.
dollars, but I mean for the four of us, it did equate to $1,000. And they were able to find that in the budget for us. So it was a matter of asking. And I think like you brought up a really good point. And I just like sorry, I'm writing it down so I don't forget it. So yeah, what you brought up, I think that was a really good point of I think now, honestly, our oppressors are getting intelligent and they recognize that diversity is profitable, right? And they know that they want us in those rooms. They want our voice so they could sell it. And they did this to me too, because the school was like, hey, so we need you to go back to the students and tell them that the teachers actually love them and they're not racist. And we need you to do it, or else like we'll suspend you. It was very like it was like when I got suspended. Sorry, we'll cover this like when we go in, but it was a long story. And when I got suspended for exposing the racism, they demanded before they suspend me that I go back to the students and convince them that teachers love us and they're not racist. So it really clicked to me, and they brought in a black girl to do like a black woman district leader to come in and tell me that, so I won't like see the racism behind it. So I really, in that moment, I recognized, damn, like y'all have figured out that we want to be listened to and we want diversity. And instead of using it in how we want it, you're using it to oppress us and you're using Black voices to oppress us again. So it's really frustrating when that happens. I know I just went on a tangent, but yeah, I just want to point that out.
No, thank you so much for bringing that up. That is something that, oh my God, that is so annoying. Like, I have tried to talk to people of my own race or people of color, like staff of color that I know better, but they're seriously
Mm-hmm.
just doing this either for their job or to like keep the peace, whatever that means. And it's
Right.
so frustrating because it's not about like, okay, which side are you on? But it is like, who are you supporting? You know what I mean? You got to think
Right.
about that. Like, this is a student that is asking for the bare minimum to feel like
Mm-hmm.
there's more equity actually being shown in the school. And I'm being punished for. I've been punished for this stuff before too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I remember since middle school, like anytime I would have any sort of like debate or even if it was an argument, it was super like civil. It was not like physical or anything like that or like really out
Mm-hmm.
there. But I was the one getting in trouble. I was the one being told that I was
Yeah.
starting issues and that like this is not for a place in school. Da, da, da. And I'm just like, wow, like this is actually
Mm.
so insane that I have to fight
Yeah.
to be taken seriously and to just literally say my piece. Like I don't understand why this is what I've learned, honestly. I love how you said, like, our oppressors are becoming smarter, da 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 da. I've also learned that a lot of it's not just okay. So as I'm gonna speak about it from like a racial perspective, but I've noticed
Mhm.
more often than not, a lot of the more like privileged people, whether it's you say they're white, straight, whatever, privileged people in a certain sense in society are way less confrontational than those of us who aren't. And I didn't
Mhm.
know that until I went to high school and had friends in other schools that were like major, like PWIs, for example. They
Mhm.
don't ever bring up issues. That's actually an issue. I think this is why they're so scared of it, is that they're not confrontational at all. And in my school, when you have an issue, you just talk to the person. Now it could get heated for sure, but like you talk, you don't just, ignore it. Nobody does that. So I was really interested in that because I was like, people are so used to conforming and being quiet and being told to shut up that it's become part of our culture and that now you're to be punished for not, even though they love to talk about freedom of speech until it's from a black girl, So
Yes.
it's really frustrating. Yeah. But no.
Girl, you're preaching. Like I feel like I'm listening to Malcolm X or something. Like you're so I love this. Yeah. I think like one thing you brought up that like also like being punished for your activism, that is so rampant. Although they'll pretend and nobody will ever like quite like outright be like I'm punishing you because you're standing up for yourself. Like it's they're very like good at like hiding it and like wrapping it in like beautiful gift wraps and stuff. But the only reason I've been able to become who I am and become strong is because I had YCD behind me. Caleb, like all the mess they dragged me through. Oh Lord. They dragged me through so much, and Caleb has been there to like, no, 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 this isn't okay. As an adult, he's been able to like step in for me and say, you're not gonna do that. You're not gonna treat her like that, or else there'll be consequences. And I think that's like, YCD is so important, and like it was such a cornerstone for me as an activist. And I really do believe that a lot of more students should be using it, because once you have a space that allows you to speak freely and then listens and then wants to help you do these things, like it's life changing. So y'all, please join YCD right now.
I second that. YCD, honestly, I love is very authentic, and they really do encourage you to be your authentic self. Like they don't, anytime any of us start to sound like our parents, like every time we have an anxiety of how it is, they're like, nope, this is for you, this is for the youth. Let's remember
Mhm.
that. Like this isn't about be conforming or being palatable, which I really, really love. And that's something I also remember. So I actually love that you brought up your experience, because I'm not gonna like get into my specifics. I this is really more, I really want to get into what you have to offer and say. But I also remember I went through a lot of, lack of better words, just stress regarding like racial issues that I was. Now, here's the thing. There are times where I would like stand up for myself, go out of my way to say something. But in this specific instance, I happen to have been questioned about something, not even actually went out of my way, right? I was questioned about something, but in my eyes, it's like, why would I lie for someone who's causing harm? That doesn't make sense to me. So I'm going to be honest. I'm going to share my opinion. You do that with that, what you will. You know what I mean? I shared
Yeah.
my opinion, and there was a staff member that was getting in trouble for an entirely different reason that had nothing to do with any other students, truly. But he was able to spin it as it was me and my friend that caused, he lied on our names, that it was something that it wasn't, and it caused so much like controversy that I seriously could not talk about it ever, because I knew people wouldn't believe me, and I know people wouldn't understand what I was trying to, like, I didn't even actually go out of my way. Like I was literally just questioned and I was used. That's something that I think is so disheartening, is to use, because I am always trying to not be in a victim mindset. Like I'm like, no, like, I'm strong, this is the work, whatever. But then I remember I was a kid, okay? Like I'm a
Exactly.
kid just voicing my opinion, and you're actually gonna use me, a whole child, right? As collateral damage for an issue that had nothing to do with us, because you don't want to take accountability. And so it caused me a lot of anxiety. I honestly started to really second guess myself when I would speak up about anything. And honestly, it was
Mhm.
something I really didn't feel comfortable talking about ever. And I still don't fully. But I just have to say, like, I, first of all, getting suspended is insane. Like, I don't understand how they were able to get, like, how they're able to suspend you. And I want to ask a bit more about that if you're okay with that. I don't want to move on from this just yet,
Yeah.
because I really love that you brought that up. So for the suspension, other than them saying you had to go apologize, which you did do, right? But how
Mhm.
long was the suspension? What did it feel like? And what do you think it like you took away from it after everything?
Yeah. So, like, just to give you all like a little background on that. So, I held like a little town hall between two district administrators, the principal, and a bunch of students, and I surveyed a lot of students, and I got their stories of the race incidents that happened. Their names were redacted, and I shared those stories. And after the town hall meeting, I posted those stories up around the school. And honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, just from the perspective of like as like a grown up, and now as an activist now, I think maybe that wasn't the best idea, just because the teachers felt attacked immediately after when they saw their names posted up and stuff. And I didn't really process it. Like I didn't think it through, like I was just a kid and I was just trying to do my best. So I didn't have all the answers, my bad. And I did that. And after that, they called me in. So like immediately after, so I that semester I was taking college classes, and I didn't have classes in my high school, but I was still like a high school student, and I was still like involved in clubs and stuff. So slowly, what they tried to do is the principal tried to like kick me out without me knowing. So she tried to be like, "Hey, it's like, why are you even like hanging out here? Like, you can like not come. Like, it's so fun not being here. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, this is my community. These are my people. Like, why would I leave the school? I'm not about to do that. And then she's like, okay, fine. And then the next day she came back with a black woman from the districts. And she had the black woman do it. She was like, I'm just gonna step out. You guys talk though, you guys get friendly. And then I thought we were just talking. Like, it was literally crazy. And like I literally just like started like talking to her about like what's been going on. And she told me that she's like an equity worker. It turns out when we did research later with Caleb, she was actually a behavioral like she's basically the district's person that works with troubled kids. And like yeah, so apparently I was the troubled kid. And she started like talking. She was like, so tell me what you did. And I was like, okay. And then I started telling her, and then she's like, why would you do that? So like she started like interrogating me, and I was so confused. And then she got me in a way to, oh my god, this is hard, y'all. It was really traumatizing, honestly. It was a very traumatizing experience, but I told her, I was like, I'm willing to do anything for my community. And these kids at this school, I love them so much. I want the world for them, and I'm going to bat for them. And then after I said that, she used it right back against me. She's like, okay, so you care about them. So if you care about them, then we're gonna suspend you for 9 days. Go tell them to be friends with the teachers, and you apologize for exposing teachers if you care about them. Then if you don't care, don't do that. But if you care, then you have to do that. And it was just like, wait, what? And like she really manipulated me in that moment, and she got me to like agree to the suspension. And I was like, okay, I guess. And then I got like, so for 9 days, I was basically banned from the school. And if I stepped on the school property, they were gonna call the cops. And I was gonna get a ticket. Yeah, so it was a full suspension, but they like didn't file it as a suspension because legally you can't even do that. So after they threatened me, I was very confused, and I contacted Caleb after, and I told him what went on, and Caleb was just shocked, and he told me, yeah, so she wasn't really being your friend, actually. She wasn't there to help you. She was trying to kick you out. And like he basically like as an adult exposed what was going on to me. And through Caleb, like I'm so thankful that he came in. Oh, God is good for that. But Caleb connected me to this really powerful lawyer who works in racial justice with schools and stuff. He's the one that actually did the Elijah McClain case. So he's very like prominent in his field. And with him, basically, the law firm emailed the district and wrote them an email saying, do not suspend this girl or else we'll sue. I mean, it wasn't even like else we'll sue. It was just like, why did he even like suspend her? And immediately, like the school took back everything, and they were like, yeah, we would never do that. Like, we never even said that. She's making it up, blah, blah, blah. And they tried to gaslight me. But like, at least like they took it back, and I was able to come back to school after.
Whoa, that's a lot. Like that is so, oh my gosh. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Genuinely, that is not anything I would wish on anyone because especially as a kid, it really does scare you from trying to just be yourself and stand up for what's right. Like you're actually scared that your future will just go away. But no,
Mm,
that oh my God. Can we talk about that? Because I was really fortunate that during a lot of my issues, I had a female black principal that was very educated and constantly batted for me. Like she was always
mm,
on my side, may she rest in peace. And she was just such a good, like she was like my school mom, you know what I mean? Like
mm,
she just was always protecting me and she knew every kid, she was making sure everyone was seen. And even when she because she unfortunately passed, when our we had a new principal come, but she was also a black female staff member from admin, so she became the principal and she was also believed in the previous principal's work. And she was just honestly, I'm being real with you, if I didn't have some staff that supported me the way I needed them to support me, I don't know where I'd be truly, because
yeah.
I it's a really scary experience being told all these lies and being intimidated and manipulated as a
Mm,
kid and saying that your future's on the line if you don't shut up and conform. It's disgusting. It's truly disgusting, and it's not okay
yeah.
because it's one thing to already have to deal with all these like issues as a black student, and then another thing to be told to shut up about every single experience you have. Like it's actually insane. And I just can't believe they were able to actually tell you like incorrect information. Like they were actually able to say they could do this and do that when they couldn't. And so do you
Yeah.
know, did the a lawyer ever explain how they were able to do that, or if that's even something that's common at all, or something that people should
Yeah.
look out for?
So it was very difficult. Like he was also confused too, because it was like, what the hell's going on? Am I suspended or not? And we were really like confused, but I think she just lied. I don't think I was actually suspended. It was just that she said I was suspended and then never even filed it. So if I step on the property, they couldn't call the cops because officially I'm not suspended. And it was really crazy because the fear mongering when you brought that up, like they actually threatened my college. Like they were like, "So you're going to San Diego State, right? And that's your dream school? Okay, well, if you get suspended, they're not gonna let you in. Like they can resend that. Like they'll take that away." And like they went in on me. Like they were not because like they saw like the potential I have. And we are so powerful, y'all. Like these people really don't want us to see our power, but like youth can change the universe. Like it's not even just the world. Like we can do anything and they are scared of that. So they're willing to say and do anything. That's why I emphasize spaces like YASPA and YCD. Like, if you're an activist, immediately join these places because without them, you're gonna be so scared. Like, as a child, like, you're not even aware of like if they're like, I didn't know they were manipulating me. I thought they were actually on my side. So like when we finished that convo, I was like, okay, thank you guys. Like I was smiling and stuff. So I really like I was naive and like I needed an adult. Like I had Caleb and then another mentor, a black teacher in my school that like told me like this is what's going on and like really showed me like the truth. So yeah, mentors are so important in this field.
No, I remember earlier you mentioned something I really like wanted to touch on. You were talking about saying like, sorry, I don't have all the answers to everything, right? And I was
Mhm.
like, that's something that like we need to really just sit with because these adults expect us to understand everything about like critical race theory and every history and all we know is that this is wrong, we don't like it, and it could be better. You know what I mean? Like we're
Exactly.
still students, we're still young, we're still learning, we're not even close to reaching our potential. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
this is just us doing what we think needs to be done because unfortunately the adults in our life just don't seem to care enough, so we feel like it's
Yeah.
responsible for us to do it. But I really like you brought that up because that's also another thing of like, especially with black kids, like the way people just make us like they what's the word, I can't think of it, they treat us like adults as kids, right? Like they treat us
Hmm.
like, think of the amount of like black boys that got so like, even my own brother would get in trouble all the time for no reason simply because he had ADHD and was black. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
because he couldn't focus, he couldn't always keep up. He was insanely smart and doing really well, but it's just because he wasn't palatable enough for these people. They couldn't understand him enough
Right.
that because of that, now it's an issue where his hyperactivity and just passion is thought of as like aggression. I talked about this in the mental health episode, but the reason I'm bringing it up now is because that's a lot of the reasons, like, black kids get into so much trouble even when it's like, no, like if you were to say I got suspended, I'm not going to automatically think you did actually do something wrong. I'm going to first ask you, okay, what
Yeah.
did you actually like do? Okay, because
Yeah.
just the school to prison pipeline is real, and constantly trying to get kids in trouble and constantly trying to get something on their record is going to hurt them. So your understanding of the situation should first begin with trying to solve it and trying to actually understand what's happening before you just start getting people in trouble because it's causing a disruption.
Exactly.
Like this is how I know a lot of these staff don't actually care about educating anyone. They literally they're just doing it for the money, because had you cared, you would. I only had a few teachers that would actually like listen to me and sit me down to understand what was happening and try to help me. And
Mhm.
I'm just so sick of teachers not even doing the bare minimum, you know?
Yeah. You know what? Oh my God, that is such a great like point that you brought up. I'm a neurodivergent black girl, right? And I struggled a lot in school because I was just a kid and they expected so much. Like, I really just want to give little me a bigger hug. Like, she's trying her best, and y'all are out here going for her neck. Like, can you just chill? Like, and it's so crazy. Like, even in this like instant of like, I'm already doing so much. Like, I didn't even realize that like how incredible like my work has been so far until like I got the YCD Youth Activist of the Year award. And like there, I really processed. It's like, wait, I did good enough because how they made me feel was that I let them down. And like the teachers hated me, the principal was mad at me, the students felt like I failed them somehow because they convinced like the teachers like talked me to the students. So like they turned them against me, and then like I really felt like a failure after that. But now I'm thinking it's like, bruh, just give me a break. I'm doing my best, and like I'm doing so much already. Can you do the bare minimum of like being understanding? Like just be a decent human being. And I think as activists, like it's such a demanding field. Like as an activist, you will like, and every activist will tell you this, like it's so demanding, but I think some people are just called to it, that like we don't have an option, right? Like we're meant to be activists, that's why we're here. And when you're going on this journey of activism, especially as a youth, give yourself grace, bro. Like you're changing so much, you're doing such incredible work, and you're changing your community, and you deserve to rest. You deserve to appreciate your work, and you deserve to just be you. Like still be a kid. Like you're still like young, you're still in high school. Like you're not this, 50-year-old doctorate holding like Angela Davis type. So still live your life, be wild, like be ratchet. That's what I like. I also like I learned too. Like be who you are, be a baddie, and don't let them talk about you. Like, don't let them bring you down to yourself, at least. Like, let them do whatever they want on their own time, but like, do not let their bullshit come into your head.
I couldn't agree more. I think one of the biggest things that a lot of whether it's just students of color or like student activists do is that they feel like in order to actually get what they need to get done, they have to be respectable, aka palatable, aka change themselves to, honestly, that was something like for me that I used to think because I grew up, so I was like in those kind of like gifted and talented like pathways or like certain classes, certain schools, whatever. And it wasn't something that like totally made my entire identity. It was definitely something that had a big impact on me though, because of the already the pressures of being first generation American in China, be perfect and
Mhm.
all that. But
Yeah.
it's also because I felt like if I want to do what I want to do, I can't be thought of as obviously this is like kind of a corny word, but like Mr. Mosby used to be like hoodlums, you know what I mean? Like I can't be thought of as
Yeah.
somebody that, only causes trouble because nobody's gonna believe a word I say. And that's just something I think is totally insane that I even have to. I'm a kid. Like I don't have to take all these things so serious. Like let me have fun. Like you said, let's get ratchet. Like it's not that deep. I just
Right.
I don't understand why we have to be like I love that you brought up the Angela Davis thing because we're not like, out here doing like God's work. We're just people, you know what I mean? We're not God.
Yeah.
Like it's just, but I want to say I hope you feel very proud of yourself because a lot of the stuff you just talked about, that is not easy. And as somebody who's been through similar things like that, oh my God. Oh my God. The anxiety, you start to really start second guessing yourself. You start to wonder if you are the problem. Like, and it's just the
Mhm.
worst cycle and loop. And I would not wish anyone. So you insanely inspired me. And I personally want to continue to do that kind of work. I don't think you should ever stop, genuinely.
Thank you so much. And oh my God, like this is why like it's so important to like be connected with people like you, like activists in the field too, because that means so much to me. And like it's like so like it's like water to my soul to hear that you think like you, an incredible like activist and this like amazing human being, like find me inspiring. Like it's such like a weird thing to even think about, but like that's why like community is so important. So before you go out and be an activist, just be in the community and just have connections and then friends, and then from there build up your activism.
No, like you said earlier when you said my community came with me and you mentioned your friends, that's
Mm,
something I talk about all the time. Like community does not have to be some big classroom full of people. It's literally just whoever is on your side. That's all. Like people
right.
who want to bat for you. No, honestly, I think that for a lot of people, it's just I don't know, sometimes I feel kind of like lonely too when I like talk to some people that might agree with what I'm saying but don't do it, which is not something they shouldn't have to do. This is not something I think is your responsibility. If anything, you should be able to just exist, you shouldn't have to
Mm,
do activism work you don't want to do, but it does start to feel hard when like for example, I wonder if we could even kind of make this something that people can also like opposition on a very lower social level, not even just school and
mm,
district. Like let's say you're in a conversation, right? And let's say you're in a college conversation. Now, as you know, like college is insanely big, university is big. There's all different kinds of people from different walks of life that you'll meet. And it's gonna be like as somebody for me, like am from a diverse city, but I'm about to go to a PWI, and it's a lot of stress for me. Like I'm really, really genuinely stressed out about it because
Yeah.
I also came from a diverse school. So I've been to PWIs before, but not for too long, and I didn't have a good experience. So I'm trying really hard to be open-minded. I'm trying really, really hard to navigate that. But my question is, how do you think you can even do that on like in a conversation where, let's say, somebody says something so out, out of left field, super out of pocket, just, problematic. How do you also deal with like opposition in that sense? Like, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And honestly, I think like, and I learned this from Miss Crystal from YASPA. She really like watered my soul and like, she brought in like the human part of like activism and like the healing aspect of it. And something I've learned about from her is she has this phrase, it's not my burden to carry. So now when people bring their bullshit to me, it is not my burden to carry. And as an activist, I'm not mandated to argue with them and change their mindset and have them become an activist now. Like that's not my job. I know my activism is going to be around education. I want to like get my degree in ethnic studies, become a professor. That's what I'm doing. So if other people are bringing BS, I'm not dealing with that. Like I'm not God. Like I ain't here to fix everybody and every single issue. So I think you really need to protect your energy because in high school, I spent so much effort. Like, I'm talking 80% of my effort trying to convince others to like be not racist and like trying to like teach them these things and stuff. But like, bruh, nah, screw that. Okay, I'm done. I'm done. I'm not doing that. That's not my job. Like, you're not even paying me. So I know what my activism is going to be, and anything outside of that is not my burden to carry.
I really, really love that you took that, route instead, because a lot of people will also be like, well, oh my God, no, this is actually, see, everything you're saying is just really resonating with me. It's like, low-key triggering because I'm just like, oh my God, like, let me tell you. But like, no, I remember a lot of times, even my own, I had my black friends from my high school, but then my middle school was like pretty white. So they said it was diverse, but it was like white and then like a lot of Asian people, and then after that it was like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to me it was not, as somebody who's been to diverse schools. But I had black friends in those PWIs getting mad at me sometimes for saying stuff because they're so used to holding their tongue and they're so used to being like, dude,
Mm,
like, just, it's not that deep. Like, shrug it off. Like, it's not serious.
yeah.
And every time I would do something, they were like, bro, like, why are you starting stuff? Or,
Yeah.
bro, like, this isn't that or this whatever. I honestly seriously thought, like, I actually started to think maybe I'm delusional. Like, I was like, maybe I'm only seeing this for a reason. And they're
Mm,
always being like, leave it alone. But it wasn't for the reason of protect your peace, protect your energy. It was genuinely to not start issues, which I think intention is so important, because I also had the same people, some other people with the same kind of like, vibe be like, why don't you just educate them? And I'm like, it's not I'm not a professor. I'm not a walking human encyclopedia. Okay. Like, I don't have time to teach every single white person I meet day to day about basic racism. Like, I just can't do
yeah.
this. Like, I'm exhausted as is trying to deal with Eurocentric beauty standards, being scared of the police. Like, think of any kind of issue regarding around race. I'm already thinking of it. Like, I don't need to do this anymore. My thing is, people will also be a little, I guess, mad when, for me, I'm gonna be real with you. I come from confrontational parents, therefore I am a little confrontational. Okay. So
Mm,
I grew up learning that if you had an issue, you kind of just voice it, So if somebody in my, circle or group at the time would say anything problematic, I would respectfully be like, oh, it's not cool. And then, if they're like, why, I would educate them because they're in my circle. But if they cause more issues about that, they would be like, oh, you're just trying to start issues. It's not that deep. It's not that serious. And then I'm like, why are you making jokes about low, like, that are such low shots? Why are you making jokes that,
um,
have to be, not inclusive? Why are you doing things that, like, I can take a joke. I'm not somebody that thinks you have to say the right words all the time. And some people are just genuinely ignorant because they are. But I'm also really sick of being scrutinized for simply trying to educate somebody or not. Or, somebody being like, well, why won't you tell me? At the end of the day, bro, and I'm just really tired of having this conversation of like what I'm supposed to do when I'm the one being affected. Like, it's just,
exactly.
no, I'm really glad you said that. I also wanted to touch on what's it called? I know some people also don't really know how to go about um making that change. So I know you told me like happened with some of the principal, like with the principal and some of the staff, but are there any
Mhm.
like clear steps or like, I guess, overall ground rules you would suggest someone take or do to try to, let's say if they find a teacher say something really problematic and it really upset people for the
Yeah.
rest of it, what is something that you would recommend people do, like in a step
That's
by
a
step?
really good question. I would like actually I was gonna also comment on what you said, but I think it ties perfectly with this question. I remember I had this one experience where bruh, the school was just wilding out. At this point, like there's no excuse for them. So they had like different names for like different groups of like there were like four groups of freshmen and then they had different names. And it was like turtle, dove, and then one of them was monkey. So we had a white teacher, bruh. I literally witnessed this and it was the most frustrating thing ever. A white teacher goes, monkeys, come here, monkeys. And then a bunch of brown and black kids started running towards her. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And then I go like read the poster. It's like monkeys were like one of the group. So I was like, I brought this up to like my friends, and then they were like, bruh, you're so dramatic, like you're over exaggerating, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, how? And even I brought it up to the principal, and they were like, there were turtles, like duh, like it's just like an animal, like it's not, we weren't even thinking about that, and like they gaslit me and like made me think I was the problem, and it was very frustrating. So in times like this is what I recommend, and this is just like what I've learned, and I know to go to safe people that like I know are activists, they hold the same values as me, and to ran to them or my therapist. And my therapist is also like anti-racist, so like either way. And I like talk it out because like I think nothing really, I mean, at least from my experiences, nothing good has come from like my anger solely from like I'm angry and I'm gonna yell and stuff. So I found that the best plan is to first talk it out, or even to myself, just like write out my feelings. And then once I process those emotions, brainstorm a few things that I want to do. And then I think about like, should I do this? And then also I also consider how much am I already giving to activism and how much energy am I already investing into my passion? Do I even have the time and space to deal with this issue? And for that issue, honestly, like I was already dealing with a lot with the school, so I said I can't deal with it. And it's not my problem to deal with. It's not my burden to carry. So I let that go. But in other things, like with the Aurora's Achievers, I took that as like, no, I want to do something. So I took like even planning out Aurora's Achievers took me about like 2 weeks. So I met with a bunch of different like activists and like really took a lot of notes and was really meticulous in like designing it so it could be successful. So it's really like my advice is like before you do anything, like give yourself the space to you're hurt and like explore that hurt and heal from it. And then your activism grows from your healing.
No, honestly, I really, really agree with everything you said. I think we often forget the part where we actually have to take care of our mental health because
Mm,
we're like, so used to, it could be like something we're told, but it could also be something that is part of our cultures that we grew up in. And a lot of BIPOC communities don't preach for mental health. We talked about this in another episode, but it becomes hard to feel it's okay to be victim sometimes. You know what I mean? Like,
right,
I'm not saying you should always have a victim mindset. I'm not saying that you have to actually label yourself as one all the time. But if in a certain situation you are a victim, it's okay to be that because you don't have to always be so strong and be like, oh, it
yeah,
doesn't affect me. This is something that whatever. It is hard to deal with these things. If anybody waters it down and acts like, oh, it's not that deep. You're just, crying over nothing. Well, I mean, that's just something they don't won't understand. And also I've actually met people where they were really ignorant as kids because we're kids. I also remember that I'm not too hard on all the students my age because I also
right.
understand that we all take different time to understand certain things. But later on in life, then they find this passion for activism. Then they find this understanding of why certain things are wrong and right. And I really like that you brought up therapy because my therapist, she is a white woman, but she is
Mm,
also really, really educated in a lot of things regarding race. So I'll be saying something and she'll be like, yeah, well, you have to understand, like, your culture was also has preaches hustle culture because of colonialism, things like that. You know what I mean? So I
right.
really recommend that if anyone wants to do these things and make change happen, that you, like you said, has a really strong support system, whatever that looks like, because God, like you really need it. I'm not joking. But um,
I think capitalism and our culture recognizes that equity is profitable. So instead of doing any of the work themselves, they're putting the burden on us. And they're like, Yeah, you have to solve it. Go ahead, go educate them, go start clubs, go do this, go do that. And no, no, no. We're not gonna like allow capitalism into our activism. Like, no, thank you, but absolutely not. I'm going to do my activism after I heal from the trauma that you've caused. I will decide if I even want to do anything. But I owe you nothing. Like I owe this world absolutely nothing. After all you did for me, now I have to fix it? Absolutely not. So give it like like understand that like it's trauma. Like when you face racism, like racism is trauma, and it's you face it every single day. So give yourself as much space as you need. Like it took me years to like really, and even to this day, like I'm still dealing with the trauma of being a black girl in school, and like how difficult and traumatizing that was. So like if you don't heal, like nothing good will come out of your activism, and your activism will actually burn out really quickly because instead of healing, you've opted to do more work, so you're going to burn out quickly. So really prioritize your mental health like you said, and heal, and then your activism.
I really, really believe that um it's just hard. Like even for example, my mom came home last night with a story about a racist encounter she had, and it really ruined her day, which I'm not gonna lie, I was a little taken aback because my mom and dad are so used to racism now that they
Mhm.
constantly tell me to shrug it off. You know what I mean? Like they're like, whatever, like I don't care. Even if I probably know deep down they do, like they at least say that. But this time, like she was very open about being upset by it. And in that situation, when she was dealing with somebody that I'm not going to like get into all the specifics, but point is that she was dealing with someone who was a supervisor for a different business close to hers. And when they were having issues between those businesses, like and it was their fault, like the supervisor's fault, she was trying to just figure out what was happening, and he's just like totally ignoring her, yelling at her, telling her he's not going to do anything about it, go away, whatever. And my mom, like, I'm not surprised, she's very much this kind of woman. She was like, she's like in her action, she's like, put your hand down, like treat me like a human being, like I'm respecting you, respect me. And she was like, I know he thought that just because I was black, African, with a hijab and I'm short, that I'd be too scared because I had an accent. I wouldn't. She's like, I don't even care if I didn't speak a lick of the language. I would still go off on him. And so
Period.
I was
What
like,
a nice mom.
yes. Like I love I
Yes,
love seeing my parents do that, because to me, I expect nothing less, because it's not fair to be walked all over on and then get in
exactly.
trouble for saying your piece. So that's why me personally, growing up, my parents definitely would get mad at me, being like, Lameese, why are you always in trouble? Like, why? Like they're like, can't you just go to school and keep it pushing? And then, but they wouldn't really get too mad because they did understand that in certain situations, like I had to say something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
But
think
yeah,
honestly, I'm like learning so much. And like, I think right now what I've learned is that feminism is you existing as yourself. And then when somebody tries to step on you, you step right back up. Like, that's why like we find Megan and Beyonce so empowering because they don't mess around. Like, you're not gonna mess with Megan and like walk away. Like, you're gonna get stepped on. So I'm really like, I'm empowering myself because like as a black girl, I was really told to shut up like my entire life until like college. Nobody really like listened to me. Everybody's just like, bro, you just caused too much trouble and pushed me off and like never gave me space to like exist. And so now like I'm learning like I have to stand up for myself and I will. Like I love myself enough to do that. So yeah, do not be playing games with them, okay? Like you give them back the same crap they give you.
no, I love that you brought up Megan, because I think it's so fitting because of everything happening with the Tory Lanez trials right now. This is
Mhm.
a clear example of how a Black woman defended herself. That's all. She didn't.
Mhm.
She actually specifically said she in the beginning she didn't tell the police. In the beginning, she didn't do anything because she didn't want them to shoot first and ask questions later. She also didn't
Right.
feel personally safe with them. But then the minute she speaks out about the incident where she was shot, right? Not only did many people not believe her, but there were already rappers dissing her and saying she was lying in their own albums and songs. And it's just insane to me that there's like this is a clear example of what happens with opposition, of like being yourself, standing up for what's right, and then literally being shut down. And this was like crazy because this was such a clear-cut case to me. I
Yeah.
literally never thought this would actually be a debate. I genuinely did not think it could be a debate. But somehow it was. So no, I think while you protect your mental health, whatever that looks like, just don't allow yourself to be walked all over on. Don't let life happen to
Right.
you, because
Yeah.
unfortunately, not many people will look out for us as the underprivileged. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
and like as a Black woman, especially like, and as like people of color, I really recommend before you step into these places, mentally prepare for resistance. And they're gonna like push back. Like, racism isn't gonna be like, oh my God, my bad. Like, let me just leave. Like, it's like, I'm here to stay. Like, this is, hundreds year old institution, like, yeah, like institution. I don't know. Like, white supremacy is like a hundreds of year old oppressor. And it's so prevalent in every single aspect of our society. So, you're going to face backlash. And if you're a person of color, if you're a Black woman, especially, they will come for your neck. And that's why like I really recommend if you like you're not like especially I don't know like you need like some point of like I like resistance, and you need to know who you are and not take from that. Like stand up for yourself. And it's so hard to say. I know like I it's easy to say but so hard to do, but I think that's why like communities like here to support you. This like podcast is here to support you. There's so many resources. Make sure you equip yourself with defense before you step into this space.
No, I really I'm glad you brought that up. There's actually these might already be answered throughout the episode, but I hope we can still get to them. No, I everything you just said is leading us to the questions we were getting
Mhm.
about the topic around opposition and like how to deal with it. So some of the questions we have, the first one was, do I have any rights as a student? And I actually did, I went further just to make sure, but I already knew you did, but guess where I learned that from? YCD. Like I
Yeah.
learned that you celebrate diversity. I remember when we had one of the conventions, the first convention conference I ever went to, one of the workshops I did was students' rights, right? And it was somebody I believe from the ACLU telling us about students' rights and how they work. But you have rights as a student. Like teachers and principals can't just do whatever they want to you. Like there are definitely
Right.
clear-cut rules that you can bring to defend yourself. So I personally don't
Exactly.
know all of them, obviously, but I would really recommend looking into those. But please go ahead. That's
Yeah, I that's a really good point. I think I honestly only found out about my rights when I got suspended. And then in the lawyer's office, they were like, well, there was a law passed that like they can't even do that. But they had like their evidence. They had like a bunch of lawsuits already that stated that you can't even suspend students for just stating their minds. Like there's so many, and then even in my like ethnic studies class and my political science class, those were where I learned it. So like school's not gonna teach you your rights. You yourself have to go out and find them.
okay. Yeah, the next question was, what if my teacher threatens my grade? Why don't you take that one first?
That's a really scary one. And I've actually had, like, I remember once I earned an A, and then the teacher really disliked me, and we had got into like, she created an issue. Like, it wasn't even like an issue. Like, she made an issue happen and then gave me a B. And that really like hurt because it was like, dang, you could really manually change my grade. And I was in ninth grade when this happened. And it was very like heartbreaking that even my work could be altered because you don't like me. What I would say to little me is do not let that shit happen. You have rights. Like they can't just be like, I dislike you, so I'm gonna change your grade. Like how should I don't even know if there's like laws to protect this, but like I really wish at the time I knew about YCD because YCD is such like a resource of like you can come in and like bring in all your issues and like they'll really help you like gain like understanding of it. And like as an adult, like I mean like YCD as an organization has a lot of resources, so I wish I brought it up to or YCD. And even if YCD wasn't able to like help me, there's so many other like organizations that are here to fight for your rights. And I recommend that if this does happen to you, reach out to those organizations. Don't let that happen.
No, I was gonna say number one, don't let it happen. Like don't accept it. That is not okay. It's not acceptable. I totally that's been a fair mine for sure. Like I was very scared, but luckily enough, most of my issues were with like honestly, with me, I was careful about it for sure. I was definitely careful around it. And for me, a lot of the issues were more admin, maybe staff that wasn't my teacher at the time or
Mhm.
currently ever going to be my teacher. But that is something that's a big feel that's the biggest reason most people don't want to do any of this, is because it's like, this is my grade, this is my future, I can't play with it, right? And honestly, I don't blame you. I understand where that anxiety is coming from. I'm never gonna really tell somebody it's your duty to do this. It's not your duty. It's not even, it's something you shouldn't have to do. But I'm glad you said that. The last question, though, was how do you deal with the anxiety of confronting many people with opposing views? Trying to trust yourself more. I feel like that's something not enough people say is, and obviously you can, trust in God, trust in whatever, spiritually like helps you get through the day, whoever's around you for like, direct physical support. But I also think people don't talk enough about trusting yourself, because it's so easy to start thinking that you're not enough, or that you are a problem, or that you have anger issues, when you're seriously just, voicing your concerns. And I think for me, one of the biggest things that's helped me get through so many of the traumatizing events that have happened in my life was just to know that I know I'm in the right, or else I wouldn't have said this or done this, because I'm already an anxious person as is. Like, I'm not going to do things to go out of my way to cause more anxiety. I do it because I know I have to. Like, I feel a need to do it. I have to remind myself why I did it. I have to make sure that I still view myself as a person and not a problem maker, or somebody that causes problems, because oftentimes like when you're around enough people, they will make you feel like you are a snowflake, or you or a social justice warrior or whatever, and it's not the case. Yeah, that's all I have to say. What do you want to say?
That's, I mean, you made such great points. I just like the one thing I'd have to, so for me, from my experience, I have an anxiety disorder, and it's really difficult for me to even like talk to regular people, let alone powerful people that disagree. So what I do was meticulously plan. Like this is, I think everybody like has a different way to deal with their anxiety, but for me, I had the like my agenda. I knew exactly what I was going to talk about. I knew my facts. I knew like planning it out made me feel like okay, like I have like the foundation of this, and then I can build on it and share my experience and go on. But if I ever get scared, or if like I'm ever intimidated, like I have like my information to fall back on, I have my facts, I have my plan, so that helps a lot.
I actually forgot to mention, I'm so glad you brought that up. It's document everything, okay? Like, I'm gonna tell you
Right.
right now, like, that's something I had to pick up to like do. I had to make sure I had all the facts. Now, I didn't always write it out, but I did make sure I was keeping like a mental note of everything happening, everything that was said. So things that also you could improve were wrong,
Mm,
because like I proved it was right, right? But I would say like one thing I'm stressed about is going and meeting a professor that's just gonna make my life hell. Like, honestly, like I'm so scared, because I'm trying to really take advantage of being in a space, and a very privileged space at that, because college is not cheap, okay? But like being in a space where I can actually have open-minded discussions, and I can actually say my piece, and we can learn from each other. But
mhm.
oftentimes you just get shut down by anyone who thinks you're too radical.
That's a really good point. Actually, like, and then one thing I was so yeah, do like whenever you're talking to these people, don't do it in person because like in person you can't prove it. So email them, and then their response you can document that and prove it. And then also in college, actually, it's so much better, girl. Oh my God, we don't have to suffer no more because there are actual systems in place to make sure that like they can't do that. Like they have to adhere by their syllabus. They can't just change your grade. Like there's, it's very structured. And then at the end too, you get to tell them and their boss exactly how they did. So there's that incentive for them to not be. But like even because like I had like a professor that was just like for no reason, and the thing is he couldn't fail me because like I did do my work, so like he had to pass me, and then also he had to read my review of him, and his boss read my review of him, and they read my story. So you don't have to fear that. Like I think like high school and below are like really scary times because you're just a kid and you don't really know what's going on. So it's very intimidating. You don't understand you can stand up for yourself, like, and then they also like minimize you a lot and they don't give you space. But like in colleges, they don't mess like that. So it's better. It gets better.
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. That honestly makes me feel better. Anyone else who's listening, because that was such a stressor for me. But no, you're absolutely right. Those are all of our questions. I really, really enjoyed today's conversation, and I'm so glad you were able to get on to talk about it. I don't think anybody else could have done it better than you, truly. But
Aww.
thank you so much, and I really just hope everything ends up being better, and that you don't have to deal with this as much anymore. And yeah.
Thank you so much. It was really honestly rewarding and healing to like talk about it because I feel like there's not too many spaces where you can just share your experience. So thank you for this opportunity.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider donating to support this work by youth activists across the country. Visit ycdiversity.org to make a donation or to get involved. For more information and updates, check out YCD's Instagram and TikTok at YCDiversity, along with our website.